All right, great. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today, Thursday. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you might be. My name is Alan Plunkett. I'm Director of Retail Design and Sustainability for 3A Composites. Basically, for the last 10, 15 years, I've worked with North America's largest retailers, restaurant groups, hospitality groups, with their in-store experiences. And thank you to Mike Lawrence, as always. He's the engine that makes these learning episodes go every month. So thanks to Mike for having this. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about a crazy holiday season. Everything's about the holidays from here to the end of the year with retail. And we're going to talk a little bit about, understanding retail in a holiday season like we've never seen before. And we'll talk about some different areas. We'll talk about how the inherent expectations of substrates have changed. They're different now than they were first of this year. We'll talk about how shopper behavior is evolving, and in some cases we've come into permanent changes in shopper behavior. And then we'll take a look at how retail is reacting to all of these factors. They have had everything but the kitchen sink thrown at them here in 2020, and they're reacting one after the other, trying to stay ahead of the game. So we'll take a look finally at the last part about how retail has reacted and why this holiday season is going to look the way it is. We don't know what the final numbers are going to be on this holiday season, but one thing we do know is the approach to getting there by retail is different than it's ever been before. So before we dive into that, I want to take a quick minute to talk about retail numbers. Everybody talks about the death of retail. How the pandemic is causing so much issues with retail. Just want to talk a little bit about some of the numbers that came in from September, late last week, Friday of last week. Those numbers came in. The September numbers for 2020 were up 1.9% over August of 2020. It's either the fourth or fifth consecutive month of gain. Most important, those are gains over the previous year, 2019. The numbers this year were up 5.4% in September over September 2019, which was considered the greatest September ever. So that would make this a great September. It's great. It's a great line to be following heading into the fourth quarter. And some of where the numbers are coming from is also encouraging. Is you look at the numbers for retail apparel and department stores are up 11% for retail apparel and 9.7% for department stores. They had been way down, but obviously down to zero during the times that they were shut down. And now they are starting to trend back in the appropriate direction. And, a lot of that could be attributed to longer than usual, a record length of a back to school season. Usually back to school season, July and August, because of different parts of the country opening up schools at different times. This back to school season was elongated. Also, people are starting to go back to work, starting to meet, do some of those things. So apparel, it was a great leader for that. And if you're kind of like me and my family, we went through that 3 to 4 months where the only pants we wore had elastic waistbands in them. We had to go and actually start to put on regular work clothes, school clothes, and that led people out and was a big factor in those numbers. But when we talk, I want to transition into the change in the substrate behavior that's necessary within stores. I won't talk about the pandemic as a whole. We've all lived it. We've been through it. We're ready for it to be over. But the one thing I want to address with this is the needs and the expectations of store materials have changed in a manner that like we've never seen before. One of the ways that the expectations have changed is if you look at a retailer like American Eagle that has decided to keep their fitting rooms open. What if you've been in fitting rooms in the past like I have, you would go in and that fitting room might be cleaned, once a month. If that, you could literally like draw an X on any sign that was there within the fitting room. Now those are on regular cleaning schedules. They also have associates that clean the fitting room before and after everybody that goes in there. Apple has a whole cleaning procedure for everything in their store. Great Clips, the stylists now have up on the wall their cleaning procedures for every customer that comes into that they service, stuff that we've never seen before, areas that would never be cleaned are now being cleaned every shift, every 2 hours. And that has led to the need for non-porous, durable, and cleanable substrates like never before. So the number one, and then on top of that, the reason for that is the number one priority for shoppers and retailers is to keep not only their customers safe, but their employees safe. And this non-porous, durable, cleanable need for substrates has come along. And one of the ways I like to think about it is just simply doing like a spray bottle test. You take a spray bottle, and if you spray it on 3A Composites Gator Plast, it'll beat up and easily just to wipe it off. But here, this is just a piece of paper. If I were to spray the water on the piece of paper, it would absorb in and soak into the paper. And in today's world, that's not really acceptable. So a complete change in the substrate. What's that mean for the holidays? In the world that I'm working with the designing of retail, not only for the holidays, but for stores, years down the road, we're seeing more and more design-ins for Sintra, for Gator Plast, in some outside spaces. This is a topic for a different day, but D-Bond for, elevator spaces, restroom spaces, living room spaces, anything like that. We're starting to see more and more of these kind of substrates being designed in. And then the second part of the equation is shopper behavior has changed. We've discussed in previous webinars how shoppers have been down this road long enough. We're 6, 7, 8 months, depending on where you live, that we've had to adapt to a new manner of shopping, whether it's the stores we can go to, what's open, what's not, how many people can go in, all sorts of different things. I use my grandmother as an example. God rest her soul. Mother of 12 during the Great Depression. Yes, I'm part of a giant Irish family. But for the rest of her life, even, in the last years of her life, we would go to dinner as a family at maybe Olive Garden. And, times were much better, but you would always see my grandmother at the end of the meal. She'd pull out a little napkin out of her purse, thinking nobody's looking. And she'd grab like the last little bit of a breadstick, and roll it up in a napkin and slide it into her purse, because it was so ingrained in her during the traumatic experiences that she had with the Great Depression that you just simply don't waste food. Some of the same things are happening now with shopper behavior. We've all kind of become that germaphobe. The commercials with the lady that's, when thinking about bugs, we've all kind of become that germaphobe. And some of those are permanent. And along with that, shoppers have also become savvy, and they can spot a retailer or a restaurant or whatever it might be that has spent a lot of time and effort working on the pandemic, making customers feel safe, making their employees feel safe, and doing generally a great job of getting out in front of the pandemic. Mike, I don't know if we have the slides available for that. Oh, I lost part of it. Hang on. Or can we go to the other slides, or are we stuck there? Here we go. So some examples of stores that some of the pictures I've taken, what I call not savvy. These are things we can probably, as shoppers, if you take a look at this, things that we can see, top center is just they used their inkjet printer in the back and slid it inside those little plastic folder things that I had back in elementary school for the 3-ring binders. That doesn't, that's not 100% effort on trying to make your customers feel safe. You look at JCPenney's in bankruptcy, they've done nothing. You look at some of the other ones, it's just Xerox, stuff in the back. And here on the far bottom right, you see an example where they tried to use just simply a cardboard type situation. And you see where it's picking up moisture and it's bending and folding. It's in the window with heat and moisture, and it's not performing. And then if Michael flip forward, you'll see an example of a couple of retailers, restaurant groups that have done a really good job getting out in front of it, and their numbers are showing it. So this one here is California Pizza Kitchen. When you come up, before you enter, this is a mall entrance for a mall store. You come up right away, you see clear and concise signage explaining what they're doing to keep you safe. In this case, it's a foam core sign inside of a frame with plastic on the outside. And then you walk inside, you see they've got hand sanitizer, they've got graphics on the floor, and you see another directional instructional signage, this case a marketing sign, same kind of thing. It's foam core behind in a frame. Well done. They're doing a great job of letting the consumer know that that's now savvy what they've done to protect them. And do we have any more with the savvy, Mike? I forget. Yep, a couple more here. Bed Bath and Bath and Body Works, doing a great job with a kiosk in the store. Disney, multiple signage, sanitation station. They've gotten out in front of it. On that sign, you can't read it for Disney, and both the one above, American Eagle. I love the American Eagle one. They were the first ones to come out with something like this. They simply, on the left side, it says what we're doing to keep you safe. On the right side, what you can do to keep yourself safe and to ensure safety. There's hand sanitizer. Then you walk inside the door and there's a temperature check. So throughout, by the time you step foot inside their store, they've done a great job of making you feel like they put every investment possible into keeping you safe. So in another part, thank you, Mike, for the slides. Another thing we've come up is shoppers are planning their trips 4 times more often today than they did at the first of the year. Before it was like 15%, and now we're up to like 60% of all shoppers are now, they don't necessarily have the list that they're walking through on their phone, but they plan the time outside of the home. Time for shopping is now planned in a manner that unlike ever before. And so what are we starting to see is this regarding shopper behavior for the holidays? The good news is 2 out of 3 shoppers are saying they're going to spend as much or more than they did last year. And one of the interesting parts is only 9% of shoppers say they plan to buy in-store only, and 13% say they plan to buy online only. And that leaves 71% going to use some sort of a combination this holiday season of online and in-store. This is great because for years, online and in-store had been kind of bitter enemies. This year, one of the great things with the pandemic with BOPUS and Curbside that I'll buy online, pick up in-store, and Curbside that I'll address it a little bit, is they have come together and they found a way to come together and to play in the same space and to where it's mutually beneficial to each other. We're also seeing 73% of consumers are motivated by price, which you would expect, looking for bargains, but 49%, 1 in 2 shoppers, the most important aspect of shopping for the holidays is having that satisfaction of bringing the product home with them when they're done with their shopping. And then we also see a rise in 2 specific groups for the holiday shopping season, the bargain hunter and the straggler. They now make up more than they ever have before, 50% of all shoppers. The number used to be about 1 in 4. So that means one out of every two of us on this webinar falls into this category. And now the bargain hunter basically has already started shopping. They started shopping before October 1st. They start with a plan. They know exactly what they want to get, and they wait for a sale or the right time to get the best bargain on that they can get. Some of the ways you see marketing being addressed to a bargain hunter, some things you see like 3-day only sales, in-store only sales, BOGO sales, buy one, get one free sales. Those are aimed towards bargain hunters. So if you've ever been motivated by any of those 3 or 4 kinds of marketing attempts, then you just might be a bargain hunter. And the straggler is kind of what it sounds like. It's somebody that knows what they need. They need to get out and they need to holiday shop, but they tend to wait. And then when they do get to the store, they tend to get into a situation where they need a little more encouragement. They need a little more direction onto where they're going. Some of the ploys that marketing works with for them are Perfect for Mom, great stocking stuffer, and then the age-old marketing trick, She's Sure to Love It. If you've fallen for any of these marketing trips, you just might be a straggler. These are time-tested and part of what is a larger makeup of holiday shopping this year than ever. And we won't touch too much on those. We'll get a little more into them later as we start to talk about now retail's reaction to the stragglers, the bargain hunters, the virus itself, and the changes in shopper behavior. Retail has already reacted to basically flipping their stores. Used to be forever that the way to get the biggest spend out of someone shopping in their store was to keep them in there as long as you can, make them walk the entire store, one or two more little impulse buys while you're there. The change in shopper behavior where shoppers now just want to get in and get out as fast as possible with as little contact as possible. That has made them take critical items, dog food, toilet paper, cleaning supplies. They've had to bring them to the front or to a more easier to access part of the store. And that's created a larger demand this year for larger displays. Also a higher use of end cap units and some other promotional ideas, but mostly displays and end cap units. And then keep in mind, because those are high touch areas, the substrate that needs to go with that now needs to be non-porous, cleanable. So, you know, same thing, thinking back at the display, if you're going to miss bottle on that display, it better beat up and wash off and stand up to that constant cleaning, as opposed to being absorbed in where it just sits there and holds for whoever might come along. They've also had to quickly adopt and adjust to what I've been talking about for months, BOPUS and Curbside, buy online, pick up in store. They have been the greatest accelerator that we've seen as a result of the pandemic. They were absolutely born, well, they had been growing for years, but they were there at a time of necessity when you couldn't enter stores. All retailers had to ramp up. If you didn't have a BOPUS Curbside program, boy, it was all feed in going for BOPUS Curbside. Mike, you might have a slide or two on BOPUS Curbside in case people want to take a little look at what some of those might be. So here on the bottom is a great example from Dick's Sporting Goods. I took a picture when they had no curbside program in place before this pandemic started. Now you see what they have. These are foam core and Sintra signs. Outside you see they've got numbered parking places, 1, 2, 3, 4. When you pull up, they've got a dedicated employee there now. And then at the top you're looking, you see some of the newest Walmart BOPUS location. This is right at the front door when you enter the store. You go in, you take your smartphone up, you type in a code, and one of those, if you see in the very first picture, there's little lockers. One of those lockers will pop open and you get your merchandise and you go, no contact with a single human being while you're there. So one of the great ways retail has reacted for this holiday season is with those. And that's going to pay off because as we mentioned, 71% plus the 13, so you're looking at 84% of shoppers are going to utilize some sort of BOPUS or curbside this holiday season, and both are great opportunities for signage presentation that have never been used before. So think about that. You know, you can upsell, you can loyalty program, you could put your holiday marketing on it, anything. So great areas for signage, directional and sale-based signage. And one of the things interesting is there's, for the first time that I can remember, there's no Black Friday. You know, we've already seen Amazon's had its Prime Day already, and we've seen stores like Home Depot have already started their Black Friday sales back, a week, 10 days ago. So this year there'll be no Black Friday for a variety of reasons, one of which being data suggested but from some surveys that the general public wasn't too excited about gathering together for a typical Black Friday due to the pandemic. And this is the BOPUS, sorry, my computer just dropped out there for a second. BOPUS and Curbside, both are also fantastic to the consumer because it appeals to both that bargain hunter and the straggler. Both are able to utilize those, the bargain hunter for waiting for that great perfect sale, and for the straggler to get as much done as quickly as possible. So just basically to conclude what's going on in this, it's important for, we have distributors on this webinar, we have printers on this webinar, sometimes we have retailers on the webinar as well. It's important to note that the Home Depots, the Walmarts, the Tractor Supplies of the world, they have entire departments dedicated to figuring out how to market, what to do, which substrates to use for their in stores. But if you look at the data, I was watching the news in New York and California, They're anticipating that 1 out of every 3 small restaurant, small retail shop in those states is going to be under by the time this pandemic's over. They just don't have the resources to go out and to execute some of these same kind of things that, you know, the advantages that the large retailers have. So hopefully that the one thing about this pandemic is everybody's kind of had to figure out again how to do things. And it's especially hard on those small and medium-sized businesses. So if you can just take some of what we talked about here about changes in shopper behavior, move everything to a safe part, get rid of your old theory of keeping the customer in store as long as you can. Small and medium-sized businesses need to hear this to survive. You know, they need durable, cleanable, sustainable substrates. They need clear and concise sign right at the front of their store every single day that tells them what they're doing. These are little things that, you know, everybody on this webinar, you know, if you're a distributor, you can take to your printer so that they can take them to the small and medium-sized businesses and help them compete against the big guys out there with some of this stuff that we're seeing at large retail, that hopefully through webinars like this, and, you know, feel free to reach out to me anytime if you've got any customers that need help. I come from a small business, a family that owns a small business. So, you know, it's really, really a tough time for them right now. And hopefully some of this will be able to be shared forward with them and help them have a great holiday season. And that's about it. I thank you for your time, and throw it back to Mike for any questions or anything that might still be out there.
All right. Yes, here. So if there are any questions, the chat function is open and available. We'll take a few minutes here to see if anything pops up. We covered a lot of good information today, so hopefully you will take it.
And I'll just say real quick, you know, like for your displays that we're talking about, that's Gatorplast. Gatorplast is a great use for that right now, an incredibly non-porous surface, really strong, will hold up in that display area. It'll hold up whether it's a short-term campaign or an entire holiday campaign. And then as always, you know, with the shorter, more quicker campaigns that I had talked about, foam core, if you put it like California Pizza Kitchen did, put the foam core behind glass or plastic, it's great. It can last all holiday season. Or it's still the foam core, 3A composite foam core is still the standard for, you know, hanging signage, temporary signage, because of the cost and the performance.
Excellent. We'll give it a couple more minutes here, but yeah, any questions that you may have, the chat function is available at the bottom of the screen. If you just hover over the bottom. For
once, I didn't go long.
What's that?
Normally I go long. This is like the first time I've ever not gone long.
This is fantastic. Well, we do have one from Brent just saying, thank you for the great information. Well done. So thank you, Alan.
Thanks, Brent.
Let's see. We'll give it one more minute here.
Yeah, I can't stress it enough how much small businesses need this information. The difference between surviving and maybe not.
Well, it looks like there are no other questions, but like Alan said, please feel free to reach out to us here at 3A, your sales professional, or out to Alan Plunkett himself, and we'll be more than happy to continue to share this information with you. We are in an extremely interesting time. Some might say volatile, but you know, there's opportunity on both sides here for us to be able to help one another, consult, be a consultant to those that work with us and use our products. And also, you know, from at all levels, be able to do that. So please do take advantage of the opportunity to speak with us. Our 3A team is more than happy to work with you on anything that you may have as well. But for those of you that joined us,
be a difference maker to your customers. Yep.
And thank you to all those that joined us today, and we will see you again next month.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your time.